All right, y'all. This is Jake from the future. I'm editing the podcast right now, and I noticed there was some audio issues. We are very sorry. With the holidays coming up, we just don't have time to reshoot the podcast. We want to get you an episode. I saved it as much as I could, but bear with us. We got it all figured out. Next week, we should be back to regular old Lights, Comics, Action audio. So as of right now, let's get into episode 7, y'all.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Collective Comics. This is the Lights, Comics, Action podcast, episode number 6.
Seven.
Wow.
We've officially done enough episodes to forget what episode we're on.
Officially, it's technically 8.
We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
But that is crazy, guys.
Yeah. It's episode 7.
I am joined by the homie Jake here.
I'm the homie Jake.
How you doing, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm tired, bro.
You're tired?
Yeah, I'm tired. Everybody's tired. It's getting to that time of year where everybody's just getting a little tired, you know?
Doing a lot of Christmas shopping and everything.
It's coming up.
As well as collecting.
Collecting is a big one for me right now, man. We went to the comic book shop and I've read all the comics I picked up yesterday. It just happens. These things happen.
Yeah. You probably stayed up all night doing it, right?
Well, I was doing other things and then I was waiting. You know, there's a lot of downtime to editing and waiting for your computer to just do what it needs to do, you know? So I was running 2 uploads at once most of the night last night. So I'd edit a video. I'm like, all right, this one's exporting. This one's uploading. I really can't do anything else right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, comic. I'm like, oh, that one's done. That one's done. Upload, blah, blah, blah. Comic. I'm like, I've read everything I bought today.
Right? You're like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
Now I got to go back, you know?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole point, kind of, I feel like.
It's weird for me because I never really read at all, really. You know what I mean? Books, I just couldn't make it through books, and we've talked about it before, I'd make it through a comic here and there, but I was so, like, hesitant to even buy comics because, like, I just didn't want to keep buying stuff and not reading it. I'm like, oh, this book sounds really good, looks really good, the cover's really cool. I'm going to read this bookshelf.
Right. And they're still sitting there.
Yeah,
you know?
Now they're in a box somewhere, probably.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that goes into, like, what we're talking about today. We're just talking comics 101, like comic collecting 101, just because with me having that mindset, like, I wasn't buying comics. I wasn't buying books. I wasn't buying all the other various things that we're talking about today, you know?
Yeah. We're going to be going over some keywords and different things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of teaching new collectors kind of what to look out for and what they might even be interested in collecting. You know, even getting down to storing comics and grading comics and things of that nature.
And that's, I mean, I got the idea last night because I was on a Gem Mint video. You know, through all this, I've been watching Gem Mint videos and, you know, seeing all kinds of cool stuff that I can't afford. You know what I mean? But I didn't even know what an omnibus was before, you know, I learned from Gem Mint what an omnibus was. And I was like, oh, those are cool. And then I'm like, looking at it myself, I'm like, I kind of want one. Like, I read the whole King in Black thing. He opened a King in Black one. I was like, I need that.
Right? All of a sudden, you're like, oh, boy, I need something that I didn't even know there was or existed.
But then I was on his channel, and I saw the proper way to open an omnibus. I was like, there's a way to open an omnibus? Like, if I would have bought one before seeing this video, I would have just been like... You know what I mean? And, you know,
we all know the sound.
Shout out Gem Mint, man. His videos are fun to watch. I like his content. And he's definitely like, we talk here on the podcast. We talk when we're going to the shop. You talk in the shop. We talk about a lot of this stuff a lot of time. But he's definitely helped me as well through a lot of this journey, getting into comics. And, you know, you see it on the set here, we buy like little pops and action figures and stuff, but he takes it to a whole nother level. And I love seeing some of those statues he cracks open. So if you haven't checked out Gem Mint, definitely check out Gem Mint.
Gem Mint has a great channel over there.
Oh, yeah.
He's redoing his whole set right now, and it's looking Really cool. Check him out on Instagram. You can really see some of this stuff on Instagram. He's a little bit more personal. Not personal on there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's pretty personal. But
I mean,
shares that cool content over there.
he also just seems to do exactly what he wants to do. You know what I mean? This is what he wants to open. This is what he wants to collect. You know, everybody on YouTube plays the game a little bit, but, you know, some people play it a lot more than I feel like he does. And
Right.
I respect that because, you know, he just seems to be himself.
Yeah.
You know
he's
what I
Gem.
mean? Yeah.
It's just Gem.
Like you get like weird characters of people on the internet and you'd think they're real, but you know, he seems, I could be wrong.
Right, yeah. Yeah, true, you know, but
Prove me wrong, Jim. Right. You know what I mean? But he seems like a really cool dude, really awesome, and I appreciate his content because it teaches me things like this.
Yep.
And then, you know, just realizing that there's a specific way to open a book, and I didn't know it. I'm like, there's probably a lot of things that I don't know.
Right.
And if anybody's watching our channel, we're just throwing these words around, and they might not know the words. So like, that's what I want to get into. Like, you can teach me, well, also us teaching them.
Yeah.
Like little keywords, little things to look for. And I mean, that's my thing. That's
because it can kind of be, you know, I've been kind of doing it and around it a little bit since I was a little bit younger, and I kind of fell out of it a little bit, and then I'm, you know, back into it, and I, you know, but all that stuff I kind of learned when I was a little bit younger, and I guess like coming into it now, if you know nothing, it can be very confusing and very, very overwhelming. Just getting all these terms thrown at you, and when you see a book that you've been looking for, but then they're like, well, this is the virgin variant, or this is a 1 in 100 variant.
yeah.
You're like, what does that mean at some point? You know what I'm saying? There's one point in that when you're gonna find out, you know, very quickly how drastic things can change.
Yeah, or like
the book,
especially with like the popularity of the movies and things like that. Like you're watching a bunch of Marvel movies, you love Iron Man. You go to a store, a comic shop, store, whatever store, you end up finding something, and you're looking at the shelf and it says first appearance of Iron Man, $3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I love Iron Man. You know, I never bought a comic before, but I have the first appearance of Iron Man. This has to be a cool book.
But
and you know, those are the things that we want to get into because, like, I'm a person. I've said before, like, the art really draws me into cards. It draws me into comics, anime, cartoon. Like, I'm a huge art dude, a huge visual dude. So, like, that's kind of how I've always just kind of collected the comics over the years. I'm like, I just happen to see a comic that cover is super dope. I'm gonna buy it and throw it in a box somewhere, or throw it on a shelf somewhere.
Exactly.
Hang it on my wall, frame it, whatever.
Exactly.
Like,
collect it.
Right.
Store it. You know, 'cause there's a proper way to do those things.
But like doing that, like I don't need to know about any of like the keywords that we're talking about. Like I knew grading was floating around, but I never knew anything about it. This King in Black here was a prime example of that. You know, if I would have seen a video like this, I probably could have went in with a little bit better idea of what I was looking at. But
you texted me on that one, and I was like, you know, I kind of made you go back a little bit for it. Not made you. Well, you wanted it already.
I was already like Googling. I'm like, let me hit up Javier. And I was like talking to my wife, and you know, she doesn't know a lot about it either. You know, she's the same way as I am. Yeah, the cover's cool, the movie's cool.
But is it worth $200 or something like that?
Because I was even like, when I first saw it, I'm like, if that's under $100, I want it just because it's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't under $100, so I left the store. So and then I'm just like Googling. I'm like, I've never like seen something like that. Like
yeah, especially when you're looking at a comic book that's 40 pages, it's paper. You know, people like to say, there's a saying going around, right? It's expensive paper.
Yeah.
You know, and that's exactly what it is. You know what I'm saying? And you don't know entirely what you're looking at, especially when it's in a slab. You don't know what kind of slab you're looking at. And for people first looking at them, they're like, why would I ever pay that much for a piece of paper with some ink on it?
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, not only that, it's like, that was my introduction into virgin variants. I didn't know what virgin variants are. And then I didn't know what a yellow label was. I'm like, I've never seen a yellow one. That must be weird. I don't know why it's got a yellow one, but it's probably just a different color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not even realizing.
And then on top of that, I knew what a variant was, but I didn't know like the extent of a variant necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm like, it looks like Venom. Like it's obviously a Venom, but it's a girl. So why? Like I don't know this character. Like is it like a Gwenum or is it
Right.
something like that? And I'm like, well, I like all the Gwens. Like I like Gwenpool, Spider Gwen, all that stuff. But I don't know anything about this. There's nothing on the cover. Why isn't there anything on the cover? I saw it said King in Black. I've never heard King in Black before.
Mm-hmm. And I have a couple in that series. I think you have a null one too.
Yeah, it's a Venom. I have a Venom version that I picked up that belongs in the King in Black. You gifted me a Spider-Woman from the King in Black series that was on, I don't know, was that on a podcast or was that on?
I think I gave it to you on the podcast.
Yeah, that was super dope. So like now I'm just starting to collect, King in Black stuff because buying that, not knowing what I was doing, got me into a series that I didn't know about, got me into like this whole thing that I didn't know about, but I still wish I would have had a little bit more knowledge like going into the whole thing. And that's exactly what this whole podcast is about today. It's like, all right, what is a yellow label? What is a virgin variant? What is, a variant? What is a slab? What
even
is
starting off basic and just going with bags and boards.
Yeah.
And an LCS.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was one point in time, I think I said LCS to you, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
what is
it
LCS?
wasn't long ago.
Yeah.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
I think we're talking about something else, and the comic, our podcast, Lights Comics Action, is LCA when we're talking about it, kind of like that. So you kind of thought I was talking that, and I was like, a local comic shop.
Yeah.
So that's what an LCS is.
I was like, that makes so much sense.
Right? And when I think there's been a few times on the channel when I'm like, oh, we're going to our LCS, or we're heading to the LCS. We've done a couple vlogs and a couple other podcasts and different videos here and there. Going to our local comic shop.
Right.
And it's always a fun time, especially just supporting a local business and when you have one that you enjoy going to. We go a little bit farther than we need to because there's a few shops around here.
Yeah.
But the one that we enjoy going to, Galactic Greg's, is a little bit farther than we need to go. But we go there because we enjoy the people there. The workers are great.
The shop is, nice to be in. There's a couple here that are like super like claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really easy to get that way. You know what I mean? Just because there's so much stuff coming out all the time, and one of the shops recently moved because they were just running out of space, and they have a big like game side too. So now they have a way bigger spot for that. But yeah, like simple keywords like LCS like are things I didn't know about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would grab comics wherever they were. In the past, I would go into these shops a lot more for like cards, like Pokemon cards, Magic cards, dice. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about also translates into cards. Grading translates into cards. The storage, a lot of that stuff. So
they typically have bags and boards. I don't know if they have boards, but they do have bags and sleeves.
It's not necessarily like a bag and board, but they have like a sleeve, like a basic sleeve, which is like a comic book bag, but then they have like hard or plastic, which is kind of like a bag and a board all
like a top
together.
loader.
Yeah,
That's exactly that's what we know from comics. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's
just a little top loader.
So a lot of this stuff does translate over, which is cool because I had a little bit of knowledge coming into comics, like this much into comics. Like I said, I always did a little bit, but getting this deep into comics, I had a little bit of knowledge from like looking at storage options, looking at, sleeves, bags, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So, the shops. But I was always drawn more to the LCS, more for like the other side of things. I would look at all the comics, and if I saw a cool one, I'd look through dollar bins, be like, oh, this cover's super dope. I can get it for $1, screw it.
Yeah.
Or like see like a random Deadpool or, stuff like that. But as far as like bags and boards for comics, never even crossed my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know there was a point in time when I was like, yo, bro, you gotta bag and board some of these,
there was probably also a few over time that I took out of the bag. You know what I mean? Just because like at some of the places that I would go to, like comics were kind of an afterthought, or going through dollar bins, it's an afterthought. So the bags were just destroyed.
Yeah.
The comic inside was still fine, but you know, I would just be like, this is garbage. You know what I mean? And I would just never put it back in a bag or board. Like short boxes, long boxes, never had them. When I was like, when we started this, I started just grabbing comics. You know what I mean? Pretty soon I just have like a stack of comics on my desk, and you're like, bro, you need to get a short box. I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That gets into a short box. That's just the way to store your comics. They got short boxes, long boxes, and they're kind of shaped perfectly for comics. And they're going to protect it if you need to take them anywhere. You always want a little bit of space while you're storing them. You don't want them jam packed because that makes it hard to get out. You know, and you always want to kind of lift them straight up and out, because you can get that spine tick in there, that dreadful spine tick that's just going to bring your comic down, depending on, you know, what type of collector you are. If you're into wanting to get them graded and preserving them and keeping them in as close to original condition as possible, I fall a little bit more under that side of things, to where I double buy books so I can have a reader copy and then have one to put on ice.
We are very different collectors.
Yes.
The stuff that I do with my comics, you just start going crazy.
I know, dude. I watch you read a comic and I'm like, bro, I'm just waiting for it to rip. Like, sometimes.
I'm kind of gentle with it while I'm reading it, but
I see you notice it a little bit more now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I buy comics more because I want to read them. Like I want the cover. Like I want, and especially like talking earlier, like me never really reading and doing stuff like that in my life, like it's almost like a I don't know, it's not a reward, but it's like a little memento. Like I read this, you know, and now I'm just filling a whole box up of stuff that I've already read, you know, and I feel like if my mom heard me talk about how much I'm reading, she'd be like, "Who are you?"
You're right. Like, you're reading?
Yeah,
it's a comic book.
I would get bad grades in high school because I refused to read, and they're like, "Read 2 chapters tonight." I'm like, "Hell no, no."
About Deadpool? No way.
Yeah, but yeah, like I'll be like, I have a box of stuff that I want to read and a box of stuff that I've read / I just want to keep for cover art.
Which organization can be important too.
Yeah, huge. Like, because before it was just like, all right, there, and then I'm looking for a specific comic to show you a cover or variant or something. I'm like, have to go through 3 boxes just to find one that I bought last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's just a mess. But I'll just be like, I'll grab one out of the one I want to read. I'll read it. I'll tape up the bag, and then I just go throw it in the one that I've the completed box, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I just hit the bottom on the edge of the box. It's just like dunk. It's like I'm backing up a dump truck. I'm like, every time I do it, I'm like, if Javier was here right now, I'd be so disappointed.
Oh, there it is, the admission of guilt. It was just eating you alive, wasn't it? No, I'm joking.
Like, it's just so funny to me because like these are things I never thought of before. Like I would literally grab a comic for cover art, put it on a shelf, and every once in a while when I rearranged my shelf, I'd be like, oh, I have these comics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is totally different for me, and
I like most things about collecting comics. I think I like comics as a whole. You know, just alongside the stories with them being what they are, and I like history. That's probably one of the few classes that I actually did very well at, was like U.S. history and stuff like that. And this kind of falls into that kind of category as pieces of history, you know, like Action Comics #1, first appearance of Superman was like 1953 or something like that, you know. Came out a long time ago, and for there to still be things of that floating around and preserved, I think that's super, super cool. You know, so yeah, the story's in there. Do I really care about what's in that? No. Do I care about that being the first time that the world saw Superman? Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely somewhere where you fall. You're like, we'll go to the shop and we just be looking at different stuff. You know what I mean? And it's kind of cool because like we get to see both of it then. You know what I mean? I'll be like, yo, this and this and this, they're talking about this and this storyline, this is this storyline, and you'll be like, this is the first time we saw this. I'm like, cool, but this story,
right?
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
Yeah, or this art on the page, and I'm like, but
it's like that moment when you're talking to like your significant other and you're like really into something, and that's how I feel sometimes. I'm like, yo, in this storyline they did X, Y, Z, and 1, 2, 3, and you're like looking at this one comic, you're like not even paying attention, you're just like nodding.
yeah, just like ignore. She's texting.
Yeah.
She's texting her friend like, dude, he is annoying me right now. Like, can I come over?
You're just like looking at this first appearance or something, and you just completely. And then after you just like notice that I stopped reading or talking, and you're like, yeah, look at what I have to talk about.
Right. So that's another key word right there.
Yeah,
that you just hit was first appearance,
and we're gonna be working into all of these. So let's get through some keywords. Let's start getting into it.
So what did we cover already? We covered LCS, which is local comic shop.
Bag and board.
Bags and boards,
So,
which we kind of covered, but it's mainly to protect and to keep your comics nice and crisp, to store them properly. It's going to keep them straight up and down so they don't fold. You'll notice if you try, like the ones that we have up there that he's grabbing right now, they have the bags and boards on them. So when we do decide to lean them up like that, they're not going to be bending in a certain way. If you did that without a bag and a board, it starts bending and it damages the book. It warps the book. It's going to need a press at least at that point, and that's if you didn't get any spine ticks in it. And that's if you care about those things. Dollar comics typically you're not going to care about.
A spine tick is like when you get that weird like crease mark in the spine.
Yeah.
Like if you like dropped it and it like bent a little bit, he's already like upset that I'm like bending it this much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so spine tick, you can kind of see like a crease line going across from the spine. So those are some things like he's always looking for them.
Yeah, there's different types of them as well.
Right.
There's just a normal spine ticks or spine ticks, but there's certain ones that we're gonna get into kind of some grading keywords right here where you can get them cleaned and pressed.
Mm-hmm.
Pressing can take those out, but what they won't take out and won't replace is the ink. So if it's a color breaking spine tick, you're going to see that white line through there. Typically black books that are all black are so hard to keep in a 9.8, 9. Books are rare 9.9 anyways.
Yeah.
But 9.8 condition, super hard because they're so easy to get those color breaks in. And once it breaks the color, you can still raise it up, but it's definitely not going to be a 9.8.
Right.
You can have some wear on the outside of the book. There is some leeway because they have to open the book to see what's on the inside, and they're going to grade the inside as well when they're grading. They're grading the front, back covers, the corners, the edges, and all the pages on the inside.
Right.
They're checking out this book, as like a historical piece, as I was kind of saying earlier. So they let a little bit of leeway go with there's a line that kind of happens from opening the book. They'll let that slide a little bit. If you open the book too much, it's going to be very noticeable.
Right.
And the basic rule is if it's any longer than the staple, and it has to be along the staple mark. If it protrudes that where the staple is, no go. Because that's common wear. That's wear from opening the book. That's wear that's not gonna degrade your comic, which is kind of interesting to me. And that's where all these different kind of grades, they get a little bit confusing. And you're like, why did I send this book? And this is in a great condition, but it says it's in fine in a 9.4 or something like that,
And we're going to get more into the nines and what makes a 9 and, all this stuff. So you can, if you get further in your comic collecting journey, we're going to cover a lot of that.
Yeah. This is the fun stuff.
Yeah.
For me.
This is what he's passionate about.
Yeah, I love this kind of stuff.
But a way that you can prevent some of this stuff from happening is putting it in a bag and board. Putting it in a short box, a long box, which are cardboard boxes. We covered it a little bit, but they're just cardboard boxes that are designed to fit comics properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A long box is a longer short box.
A short box will typically fit about 50. or so comics.
Because I didn't know this number, and that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, so a long box will sit anywhere from 50, depending on who's packing the box, and all that kind of stuff. You could fit more, you could fit less.
Right.
I put typically a little bit less just so I have the room to scroll through my comics so I
Right.
don't get those spine ticks and I'm not bending it. Because realistically, the bag and board is the bare minimum that you can do to store these comics in. You can get a top loader, as we were talking about earlier, which is pretty much a bag and board in one, but it's even more heavy duty. If you
it's like
drop
a plastic.
if you drop that top loader, you're probably not going to damage the corner of the book. If you drop this in the bag and board,
It might burst into flames.
not that it's going to burst into flames, but that corner's going to be damaged.
I think you like wince every time you notice you can feel like when somebody in the world drops a comic and you're like, oh.
I feel like I do. Like just a little part of me.
It happened again. Somebody dropped a comic. Somebody opened their comic book.
It's like the leaf in Beauty and the Beast. That's what it's reminding me of when the rose petal is falling off. Yeah. And he's like dying, and when that last rose petal, that's what happens to me every time somebody nicks a corner. But
because then we got like slabs too, which is like the graded that we have slabs up here with the bar across the top and a number,
which it does protect to a certain extent, but
it's not like an Up Armored magazine at that point. You know what I mean? It's not battle ready.
It's never to be opened again. It's meant to preserve. That's part of that history with the slabs. That is keeping that comic in that 9.8 condition, and unless it comes out of that slab or something terrible happens to that slab, it will always be in that 9.8 condition.
And there are some exceptions to that, which like we have on the list as well, but that's much more advanced than what a bag and board is.
It's a little deeper into your collecting journey and knowing what a spine tick is and things of that nature and what to look out for and what to not do to your comics. Typically the way to grab these, you're going to want to grab them from the outside where you open the book, because that spine tick is going to happen when that pressure happens between these two fingers right here. You can kind of, I'm not doing it, but you can see
a $1 comic,
but that's what I'm saying is that like
I'll throw this at like a frisbee, bro. Sometimes I just want to do stuff with comics just to see Javier's reaction.
Oh, you're gonna give me a stroke, dude. But typically, I was just handling it the complete opposite way, but I was also kind of holding it in the middle and paying attention to not damage the spine, because that's what they're gonna look for first. They're going to check the edges. They're going to check the corners. And this is a way to prevent it. My trick to bags and boards are, we're going to get into kind of golden age, silver age, and modern age comics here and talk about what that means here in a second. And you'll kind of see where this falls in line. My trick to protecting it a little bit more is to put modern comics in silver age bags.
Because silver age is a little bit bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit wider, a little bit longer, so it gives it that room. So if it does happen, you can see how up here there's a gap between this. Not that this is a silver age book, because it's definitely a modern age width, but the length of it, if it were to fall up here, because it's not out this way, it could still damage it, but it's mainly going to damage this board right here, and it's going to kind of protect the comic. So that's like my tip. With it is to throw some stuff in silver age, or if you want to go extreme, golden age. Typically I think that scares me a little bit. It's almost too wide for silver age is fine in silver age stuff, because they're actually just still a little bit bigger. They don't kind of tighten up this much like modern age stuff, but golden age is almost too much room and too much play in that bag. It's almost bouncing around in that bag too much, and you're almost going to cause damage.
I wanna ask you this, because I was curious and I didn't Google it yet. Is there a proper way to like put a comic in a bag and board? Like I see a lot of like, does it matter if the flap is on the bottom or the top?
I wouldn't necessarily say so.
Okay.
I do see a lot of people putting it on the bottom, which that bugs my OCD more than anything.
Yeah, I like it better on the top, but I was like, is that like if there's moisture in it, the moisture drops down? I started getting like super in my head about like, but if heat is trapped in there and the heat rises and it comes out the top of the vents and I was like,
right,
I'm overthinking all of this probably. You know what I mean? I just like it this way. Slide it in, wrap it around, tape it.
It makes that much that much sense because like when I do get them and I don't replace them and I put them in my short box or my long box, whatever comic is in front of it or behind it, that flap is going up at that point.
Oh yeah.
So the next comic comes right down
That
and
makes
grips
sense.
it, and it rips my bag every time, and it dog ears it, and I end up having to replace that bag anyways.
All
So
right.
that's another quick tip right there.
All right, we're about a half hour in and we haven't made it through simple keywords yet.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a quick fire. We're going to finish
All right.
these keywords. I'm going to say a couple names. You give me a brief synopsis of what it is.
All right.
All right, so we got slabs, as we covered the slabs up here. That's what you get it graded. We'll talk about that a little bit more.
Graded comic in the actual plastic.
What is a variant? Simple. We're getting into variants a little bit more later. So what is your quick breakdown of what a variant is?
Quick breakdown. You're gonna have a main cover of any cover. Any comic is gonna always have a main cover. Do they always have variants? No, but they typically will have a cover B or a cover C.
Right.
Those are variants. Anything that is changing on that book that's not the original cover, sometimes they just get rid of labels and make it a virgin variant. So that's another keyword right there. Anything that's changing on that main cover, basically.
Pull list. I didn't even know what a pull list was before we started this channel. So tell these people what a pull list is real quick.
Pull list is books that you want to pick up that's kind of coming. You can typically put books on a pull list that are coming out at your LCS.
So every week we do a video of the books that are coming out that week, what we want to pick up, what we're excited about. That's what a pull list is.
Pretty much it.
Grail. This is one I didn't know until we put this list together. So it's a grail.
A grail piece is like something that you've been hunting for a long time. Typically tends to be something that you had to save for a long time or make the right deal, make the right trade. A grail piece, a lot of people would love to have an Action Comics #1, but that's $1 million book, so most people will not be able to get an Action Comics #1, and on top of that, it's from like the 50s. So it's super rare, super old.
Spec book. What is a spec book?
A book that you're kind of speculating on that you're thinking could jump in price. So typically it's either it can be a new book, or like if it's relating to a movie, or typically it tends to be, we're going to get into keys here, but it tends to be more of a key.
Yeah, I hear you talk about it all the time. Like, all right, the Wakanda Forever just came out.
Mm-hmm.
You're specking all like the Black Panther books, and you think they might jump, or Wakanda Forever books, or Conquered just came out, so that was like a spec. So keys is the next one.
Keys, any major event. There's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into that. Major events, first appearances. The one that I like to use a lot is because it's a hot key right now. It's a big book. Is New Mutants '98, and that's the first appearance of Deadpool.
Okay, yeah.
And that's a key. That's the first time we saw Deadpool. Not only that, it's a major key because it's also his first cover, his first appearance, all of that in one. So that's typically what a key is. Any major event. So not typically an annual or just some random book in a storyline. Something major that happened.
Since a lot of this stuff goes into like cards, I just wanted to talk about like uncut, like getting a sheet of like Pokemon cards that are uncut. Like you can get 1 through 50, like the first original 150 uncut, and you can put a big frame on that. Holographic, I feel like we all kind of know what holographic is, but that's like a shiny back, but you can have full hollows, full arts,
Foils
stuff like that. Yeah.
in comics, that's kind of where that relates. Holographics and foils and holograms.
So there's just a couple like card keywords just to kind of finish that up, just because, you don't typically buy an uncut comic. You could buy like a print or, stuff like that.
I think you can, but they're very rare. And same thing as the cards that typically they tend to be very expensive. That could be a grail piece.
Right.
If you know that there's an uncut panel page somewhere that's floating around that somebody took from the studio, the printing press, and it's floating around and it got auctioned off, that could be a grail piece. That could be something that you really, really want. I would love something like that. I think those are super cool.
So you're on your comic book journey. You're starting your comic book collecting journey. We're going to get into some different books that you can be looking at, because this confused me even before I got into collecting, like even before I got into really reading. I'd be looking for like the Umbrella Academy, and I'd be like, okay, there's an issue here, there's a volume here, Here's like this big thick book of it. Here's a big like giant cover book of it. I'm like, so what is what? Like, do I have to buy 1, 2, and 3 and then get this one? That's, so those are some things that confuse me. I kind of learned a little bit of this over time, and then, some of this come from Gem Mint, and some of this came from you, and some of it came from Google.
There you go.
So what's a trade paperback?
Trade paperback is typically like a volume or a collection of a certain story arc. They have like, I have the hiccups right now. I don't know if you saw me like choking on it, but like Something's Killing the Children. They have volume 1, 2, 3, and 4 right now, and they're probably going to put another one out because they're still releasing that. So those are typically certain story arcs that you can kind of collect, and trade paperback is basically just telling you like that's the paperback of the first volume. Typically has about 5 to I think 12 issues.
This says the written description for it is this is the most common kind of collected edition where usually collecting 5 to 8 single issues.
Something around there.
Is in a paperback format and can often be referred to as a trade. So this is huge. I didn't know because this trade is always thrown around. Oh, you can get that in a trade. That'll probably be a trade soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know what anybody is saying around me. Right. I'm like, yeah, it should be. Okay, yeah.
And that kind of goes into them being trades versus single issues.
Mm-hmm.
Single issues are just, this is a single issue. This is Fantastic Four 416 from Marvel Comics.
And that's unknowingly, that's pretty much how I collected I Hate Fairyland. I got the 4 trade paperbacks of that.
Yeah.
Because 1 has issues 1 through 3, 2 has issues 4 through 6, so on and so forth. So I didn't know what it was, but I had a bunch of them because that's usually until like I started grabbing a lot of like comics that are coming out this week. So I can't, obviously the trades aren't available yet, but previously that's how I would collect it.
Yeah. Typically once those runs end, they end up releasing that trade paperback.
Yeah. I'll grab like a Ghost Spider, a Spider Gwen, and trade paperback, but I didn't know it was called that. So that's super helpful. Hardcover is basically just like a hardcover trade paperback.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, exactly. That one I feel pretty self-explanatory. Typically, the fine line gets confusing here in a second.
Yeah, the hardcover could have up to 12 issues. So so it's like it's like a long trade paperback with a hardcover on it.
Right.
Then we get into omnibus, which I didn't know what that was. I said that earlier. Gem Mint taught me about omnibuses, and now I keep looking at them. Thanks, Gem.
But yeah, omnibuses, very big books.
Yes.
Very thick books.
They look so good on a shelf, though.
They really do. They really do. They look awesome. Something that I've definitely wanted to get into, but I've always been a single issue kind of collector, and I like having the single issues, but for reading purposes, I've definitely wanted to pick up omnibuses. So omnibuses are going to have the entire story arc. So you were talking King in Black.
Yeah.
We have issues 1 through 5 that you're kind of breaking down right now, and that's the main story arc. But it also has a bunch of other story arcs kind of integrating in from other comics.
Right.
So like Spider-Woman #7 is a tie-in. Somehow those story arcs meet
all the Venoms and
yeah. So typically it's not only going to have all those King in Black story arcs, but it's also going to have the surrounding issues and that story arc for those. So you can kind of jump around and read them how you want to. It's a little weird the way that Marvel lays theirs out. You kind of don't read the storyline in order. You read them by section. So you read the King in Black, and then you'll read the Spider-Woman and the Venom and stuff like that. So you kind of have to jump around a little bit, and then you kind of puzzle it together in your head. But
weird.
that's kind of the whole point.
I need to get an omnibus, y'all.
They're sweet. They're sweet because they also include a lot of, like, the collectors really like this part because they will have all the variants that were released on it with the ratio numbers and not, it's not the single issue, so it's not the ratio, but you have that artwork and you can always look at that artwork and it's really beautiful to look at some of those artworks.
I need to get my hands on an omnibus. I have to get an omnibus. I don't know when I'm going to get an omnibus, but if I do, you're going to see it on a spotlight.
When Marvel hooks us up. That'd be sick, but
Christmas is coming. If my wife is watching this. No, I'm just kidding. They're expensive. Omnibuses can be expensive.
Yes.
So,
you're typically looking 70 to 100 on the low end.
I do the poor man's omnibus, which is a trade paperback. I'd say hardcovers would be probably the poor man's omnibus, but I like the trade paperbacks. But it's also something that I'm not like super concerned about. Like I'll throw a trade paperback in a backpack and go somewhere and read. Where like I probably wouldn't do that with an omnibus, because I need a separate bag for that. But
right.
Annuals is new for me as well. It's something I didn't know, and we got Nightwing annual coming up soon, so I want to definitely learn what that is and what it consists of. So an annual is an oversized special comic book that is released in addition to a regular comic in that series. In addition to the regular comics. Okay.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me more about an annual? Like, can you break that down into terms of...
I feel like that's basically the main terms of an annual. It's going to come out once a year, pretty much. It can be whatever kind of story arc is happening. It doesn't have to tie in.
That's the key. Like it doesn't always tie in, but it could tie in.
It could. Okay. It could. Depends on who's writing. You know what I'm saying? It's just something that they push out every year. Kind of more filler material than anything super super interesting happening. But a lot of times, sometimes they'll drop new villains. Okay. So sometimes somewhere in those annual lines, like. The Nightwing annual number 6 from 2016, or I don't know, I don't know what happened in that book, but
that'd be impressive if you just pull it out.
Right? Yeah.
This is what happened in this book.
Yeah, but I don't know that book exactly. But for example, they'll drop new villains. Okay. And that's where they'll kind of test out new villains and stuff like that. So if a villain hits. We get a new villain from DC, and it dropped into an annual that turns that annual into a key. Oh, okay. So typically, when you're seeing annuals and stuff, they're not going to be something that is super super collectible. Every once in a while, you can have something, but it's typically something that is filler material for DC. They don't have or Marvel. That's typically what an annual is.
One shot. So a one shot is just a story that you explained it to me a little bit. Okay. So a one shot is like a one off. It doesn't really apply to any other storyline. It doesn't have like an issue 2 coming out, right?
Yeah, not that it necessarily doesn't apply to another storyline, but it's a one issue comic, a one shot. You're gonna like kind of when you play D&D, you play a one shot campaign, means you do it in one night, right? Type of thing. You're gonna read this story in one book. That one book is that issue. So we've been talking a lot about the One Bad Day line that's been coming out. Yes, there's 7 or so issues that are coming out, but those are one-shot comics because it's going to it's a one-shot Riddler story. It's a one-shot Mr. Freeze story. It's a one-shot Penguin story. A one-shot Catwoman. So there's not going to be an issue 2 of One Bad Day. Right. Can they make an annual and tie it into something that happened in there? Because they're writing some origin stories. They're rewriting some origin stories with those sometimes. The Killing Joke is a major key that is not only a one shot. It's a major key because that is the issue that the Joker shot Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, right, and paralyzed her, and that's when he got her as I'm gonna mess up the name. I almost said Animus from. Assassin's Creed, but his AI essentially his tech girl. You'll see her in I'm losing the name of her, but from the comics. But
I've watched and read that one. I can't think of anything off the top of my head to help you. I'm sorry.
Right. But that's a good example that kind
yeah.
of throws in a couple different things here, and they have a couple different printings as well,
Mm-hmm.
of those books because they reissue them.
So manga or manga, I hear it said both ways. I don't know what the official real, pronunciation is, but I mean it's kind of like anime in a book. So it's like, if you are into My Hero Academia, first of all, me too. Second of all, if you buy like the books, that's gonna be the manga version of that. It's a Japanese style comic book or graphic novel. A lot of times you'll actually read them backwards. So like this would be the front cover, like a comic and everything, and in like manga or manga, a lot of them are like the back. For us, the back cover is the front cover, and then you have to like flip backwards. So it's kind of weird to get into, but the art in those is crazy.
Maybe we'll hop in and make a video or something on like how to read manga or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
That'd be cool.
We could definitely. I've noticed that some of them are more like Americanized. Americanized, is that a word? But so like you do just read it like front to back, just like a normal like a normal comic or
I think they make
graphic
their
novel. But
I think they make their special printings for us, so we can do that.
probably they
100%.
But they are full of awesome artwork, crazy stuff. Like if you ever watched an anime, just imagine that just laid out in front of you in beautiful artwork. It's super dope. So now you kind of learned about issues, some keywords. You made it to your LCS, and you decided you're going to pick up single issues. There's a couple more things to look at. We've talked about it a little bit. So what's a variant?
Variant, like we said, we talked about it a little bit, is a different version. It's the same issue, but a different cover.
Right. That was so confusing for me when I would before this, like before we kind of got into it. I'd be like, this says it's the same comic. There's 7 different covers. Is this a different storyline? Is this a different thing? Is this like, well, I'm so confused. I'm just not gonna buy any of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those are some of my favorite things about comics. Is the
variants. I love it now. Like it's so cool to me now.
There's a bunch of different types of variants.
Yeah.
And that those go into some basically variant key issue or keywords is what we can kind of start going over here.
We got like a trade dress.
Yeah, trade dress is basically you can think about it like a branding or some kind of like copyright thing, like trademarking. Typically, the cover is drawn by the artist, and then it's very uniformed. So the logo is Marvel's logo. Like the Gambit logo is always going to be the Gambit logo. They have their trade dressing of that, and if an artist wants to draw their own logo and cover for it, they can do that. And typically that would be cover A or something like that. But then they'll do the trade dress edition, which gets rid of their, drawn artwork.
For whatever. Some of this stuff.
And then it puts like the Marvel logo and the pricing and like the standard what you'll see.
For some of this stuff, I'm definitely gonna have to put some of this stuff on the screen. You know what I mean? Like what it's like. I'm not gonna expect you to just like look at this. This is a trade dress. It's not a trade dress. So
it's not, but it's almost.
But we'll put it on the screen.
Yeah. The
especially if it's in a bag and board, the glare, it's really hard to see some of this stuff. So we'll definitely show you some stuff on screen. A virgin variant
gets rid of that logo.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the same thing applied. It's basically changing things with the titles, the logos, the pricings. Virgin variants are just going to have absolutely nothing on it.
Just the artwork.
Yeah, just the artwork. It's going to have no pricing, no name. That's where things get a little bit confusing because people are like, what is this comic?
Yeah.
They don't know. I mean, typically it's found inside the book. You can check the back cover. It might say it on the back cover or something like that. But the variant covers are very different, especially with virgins.
Yeah, that was threw me for a loop with this King in Black slab up here. Ratio variants.
Ratios. So when you order these comics, typically from like these comic shops will have to put in so many orders of X amount of books. So in order to be able to get one of a 1 in 25 ratio variant, to be able to purchase one as an LCS, you have to order 25 copies of the main cover,
Right.
or 25 copies of that book. So that opens you up to getting into those ratio variants, which make them a little bit more rare, depending on, because typically the higher the count of the ratio, the less printings of them there are.
Right.
You know, because not every comic is going to go and be able to order 300 comic books to be able to get, 300 issue number one, because, that's a lot of books.
Yeah, then you just have to move them, or you have to sit with them, or, just to get that one.
Just to be able to get 3 copies of
Yeah.
the 1 in 100 ratio. So not every comic shop is going to be able to do that. Some of these comic shops won't even be able to get 50.
Right.
And get the 1 in 50 ratios. So that's where they get the 1 in 25 ratios, and that's how the rarity in those variants kind of change. And they typically will have their own artwork, or a 1 in 25 virgin variant will pop up, or 1 in 100 virgin variant, and X amount of those are printed.
Yeah, yeah. It sucks because a lot of them are really cool, but I can't. Like, some shops will let you pay for all of the books. You know what I mean? Like, you can pay, if you want a 1 in 25 variant, you can buy 25 of that so they can get one. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but you also have to pay the price that they want for that book.
Right. Yeah.
That book is more expensive for them, and it's also more expensive for you.
Right. So it's hard to get a hold of a lot of
It's
them.
a game.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
You can check it out on Whatnot. Whatnot is the place to get those things.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the best place to get them. It's collectors that buy them in bulk, get a good deal on them. I have a lot of virgin variants and stuff like that. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
So I typically have a lot on ice for the PC. For
PC. What's PC?
PC, personal collection.
Yep.
Another keyword right there.
I kind of piece it together over time, but the first however many times you said PC, I'm like, yep, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Totally didn't know what you were talking about.
You're like his computer. He's giving comics to his
this
computer.
dude just saying stuff now.
Yeah. I'm just totally XYZ, dude.
Link in the description to get $10 credit on Whatnot. On our if you use our link, you can also stop by our shows, our streams, and see what we got selling, see what we got going on. We're talking about getting some more stuff in, getting some more stuff going, getting some more shows running. So after the new year, we're getting close to the end of the year. After the new year, we want to really hit the ground running with a lot of stuff. So we're talking. Newsstand. What's a newsstand?
A newsstand. So it's another variant, pretty much. Typically, it has to do with the barcode. The barcode is kind of like a little bit different, and that's how you can tell. It's mainly older comics and Silver Age and Golden Age comics that were put on newsstands back in the day, when you would see all those books and everything on the streets of New York.
Right.
And things like that. So those were specifically sent out to newsstands, and the thing that makes it rare is because the barcode is different from direct editions. Those were very hard to keep in good condition.
Right.
So if you have a 9.8 newsstand, that means that was in the wind, in the cold. It could have rained on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big deal.
UPC variant.
Kind of the same thing. UPC variant, but my favorite version of the UPC variant is the DC Universe UPC variant, because those kind of came in these back in the 90s. Walmart and Toys R Us would sell collections of like 5 or 7 comics and make it a collector's edition, and randomly they literally had no algorithm to it, and that's what makes it different. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't purposely trying to make these collectible, but they put DC Universe randomly on some of these books, which made it a variant.
Right.
Because
I didn't
the
know
barcode
anything
is
about
not in
that.
there.
Yeah.
But you had to buy it in a brick, in a pack of 5, and you don't know what's in it. It was branded collector's edition, and typically anything that was branded collector's edition isn't a collector's edition.
Right.
This is like the one exception.
Really?
Like, because they had no algorithm to it, and sometimes you would get first appearances and major keys with a different UPC variant.
That's crazy, yeah.
And that could, they don't know how many they printed. And that's a big deal.
Let's talk about age real quick. So you're collecting
Mhm.
and you're getting a little bit more into it, and you're looking for specific books now at this
Mhm.
point. So what ages are we talking about? We're talking Golden Age, 1938 to 1956, Silver Age, 1970 to 1985. Modern Age is kind of loosely 1985 to present day now, because we're going to
Mhm.
get into like Copper and Bronze Age. Now, I'm not familiar with Copper and Bronze Age as much as the other ones. Can you kind of break that
Yeah.
down?
So I'm not all that familiar with it
Mhm.
as well. I
Well,
think
it's like a
we're
newer
trying to,
thing, right?
yeah, with Copper Age.
Like, grand scheme of things, newer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The Bronze Age is kind of, I don't know if they're trying to fill the gap. It's pretty much, most people will consider it the Silver Age, or they'll call it the Bronze Age. Um, so yeah, like you said, that's kind of happening from 1970 to 1985. That's like the Silver Age of comics, and that's when the sizes kind of
Yeah.
changed, and the way that they printed them.
Hmm.
You know, Golden Age and Silver Age, they kept a little bit more in mind with the Silver Age as far as keeping that book.
Hmm.
But Golden Age was definitely not meant to keep.
Yeah, made to read and throw away pretty much.
Printed on very crappy paper,
Hmm.
stuff that's gonna rub off, stuff that's gonna rip up, and never meant to be preserved. So that's why things get so rare and so high priced, because these books have been destroyed, and
Yeah.
you know, when they're still intact, even with a cover ripped
Like,
off.
if you find something from 1940 in a 9.8 condition, that would be unheard of. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
it's impossible. And if there is one, it's a bajillion dollars. You know, and because it's the only one.
So coming off of like the ages, the golden ages, the silver ages, we also have things like reprints and anniversary issues.
Mhm.
This is where people can get confused, especially as like a new. I said earlier, if you're like you watch a new Avengers movie,
Mhm.
you fall in love with Iron Man, you go to a random store and they're like, "This is the first print of Iron Man. This is the first appearance of Iron Man."
Yeah,
You
and
pick
you
it
get
up.
excited.
Yeah, you pick it up thinking it's something really cool. I mean, it is cool. It's cool for you.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that away from anybody, but it might not be exactly what you think it is.
Oh yeah.
So let's break down like original pressings. Let's talk about anniversary issues, reprints, stuff like that.
Yeah. So reprints, and they're not original pressings, not
Right.
first editions, not first prints, not second prints, none of that kind of stuff. That's where second print is, obviously not a first print, but
Mm-hmm.
they purposely change the covers on second prints and third prints very slightly. They'll change like the color of the logo
Mm-hmm.
that they put on it. And that's how certain things you'll be able to tell. Or they'll change like the lapel on somebody's jacket. And that's how you're able to tell
Yeah.
the third print. And they do that intentionally. They know what they're doing, especially when you get into Silver Age and stuff like that. But like a good example of that is this one right here. I've been kind of keeping off screen. I mentioned it earlier, was the New Mutants 98. This is not, believe me, I would not have this book in my hand without something on it, and I would not have it raw in my hand right now.
I'm surprised you do, anyways.
It just hasn't made it to the
Yeah.
back and board yet.
Yeah.
I haven't opened. I mean, no, I lied. I opened it, but that's what's cool about this. I paid $3.99, $4 for the first appearance of Deadpool.
Yeah.
Whoa, dude, isn't that crazy? You know, this is a reissue.
Right.
This is a reprinting. This is brand new. Came off the print a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Brand freaking new. People, look out for the logos up here. Look at this, says $3.99. This was a $1 comic back in the day. I believe it either says 90 something cents or $1
Right.
on the first prints. That's, but this is the original cover. It also has this crazy UPC right here.
Mm-hmm.
Things that weren't like that.
Right.
So there has unfortunately been some people out there that get all excited and get on Reddit and get on eBay and list their book thinking they got a steal because this was the last one on the shelf and they still kept it at $3 and they think it's $1,000 comic because the first print is in a 9.8 condition. It has to be slabbed. First print is a lot of money. This is a big book. This is cool that I have it. And that's the point of these reissues. I've wanted this book. I'm sure. This is the first appearance of Deadpool. You know what I'm saying? This is the first time that you've seen Deadpool. This is to the T. You open this book up, and there, look at that. That's old news. You know what I'm saying? That is old advertisement. So this is opening up a piece of history that you can open up. Right. You know what I'm saying? This isn't gonna degrade this. I mean, I can go ahead and rip it, but what am I gonna lose? $4? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you didn't lose $4. You can still read it. That's what, you're paying $4 to read a comic these days.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Unless, there's some other ways you can read comics and stuff.
But this is exactly to the T. The New Mutants 98. Pretty much the same thing. Certain things have to change on it. And obviously they put the UPC on there. They threw the different price up. So yes, it's the same book, but the reissues, you have to be very careful, especially when buying certain comics. And these are just things to mainly look out for and tips in your collecting, because we've heard some horror stories from our friends that work at comic shops and stuff like that, to where people come in trying to sell their book. And
they're like, I have the first appearance.
Yeah, you do.
It's a reprint. It's a reissue. It's an anniversary.
And sadly,
it's like Death of Superman right now.
Yeah.
There's reprints. It's anniversary issues all over the place, but it's not the original.
Mm-hmm. In 30 years, it'll be cool.
Yeah,
because then the 50th year anniversary will be out and things of that nature. But
so in this podcast, we've kind of got you from like basic keywords, seeing a comic and wondering what it is, and getting you all the way to like, what is this book that I'm holding? What is this cover that I'm holding? Mm-hmm. What is this that, how do I store it? Things like that. We've talked a little bit about grading. We didn't get super in depth on grading, but we can also do a video if anybody's interested. Let us know.
Mm-hmm. Drop that comment.
We definitely want to get more in depth with a lot of this stuff over time. So
I can go off on a 4-hour podcast if I need to.
We had a much longer list. Yes. We had a much longer list of stuff that we wanted to get into, but you kind of got into. We basically took you from, okay, I want to buy comics, to what do I do with this comic now? You know what I mean? And now we kind of is this a comic that I just kind of throw, or is this a comic that I put in a bag and a board in a box? Is this a comic that I might get slabbed? Is this a comic that I send into grading?
And also just what to look out for when you're buying a little bit.
Right, exactly.
With these reprints.
Like if you're going to like a flea, there's comics everywhere, like flea markets and thrift stores. You can find them everywhere. And if they're selling you a first appearance of Deadpool, and they have this exact same one, and they're selling it for a couple $100, you know exactly what to look for and try not to get duped.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that it could say $1 right here, and it could be the first print, and it says $5 on the bag.
Yeah,
because they do not know what they have.
Right, exactly.
Very possible.
You definitely want to find those deals, not the other way around, where they have this book marked for $500. Yep. You know what I mean? Because you can go out and you can find really cool stuff for $1, 50 cents at like a garage sale. Because they had them when they were kids and they stopped reading comics. They don't even know what it is anymore, and they're just like, I need to get rid of this. Somebody else might like it. Yeah. So there is a lot of other stuff to get into, but getting to the point where you're ready to send something out for grading is kind of where we're at right now, and that's a little bit further down the line for a lot of people, especially somebody who's just buying their first comic today. You know what I mean? So, I think that was super informational.
Yeah, educational.
Informational, educational. Drop a comment and like,
there it is
on our channel.
Yeah, he's rapping now.
I'm done.
The mic drop.
But yeah, this was super fun. Like, I definitely learned some stuff from this, and it's kind of like talks like this over time, where like you kind of get to where you're getting. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is where you're like, okay, I just saw something the other day. What is this? You know? And you're like, oh yeah, it's this and this and this. Stuff like that.
It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to go over.
Oh yeah.
But
I guess we're kind of goofy thinking we could go over what we thought we could in an hour, but I'd rather have too much information than not enough.
Yeah,
Sitting at 35 minutes and be like, well, there it is.
Right.
Have a good day.
We might start a comic collecting 101 series.
We could,
and then we can start convention etiquette.
We can start
things like that.
What's going on with my hair 101 series. All right.
So,
if you are here till the end, we appreciate you. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we do have these coming out every week on Wednesday. We have it everywhere you listen to podcasts. We are still working on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, but everywhere else that's available to us has been accepted. Yeah, that's it.
I think that's it, guys. Check out the merch. Go to dubby.gg and drop that promo code Collective Comics.
We got Whatnot. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Get the free $10. Buy yourself a comic and get it for free.
Get your reprints. Believe me, I tell you, this is a reprint. I'm not gonna,
Yeah, right.
So,
but yeah, until next week. This has been Collective Comics.